another wonderful episode of Amazing Amazon and Captain TV coming from the Lagos city. So hope you enjoyed the last episode. Yes, I'm here again before you and I'm sure that you're excited to see my face again. Hope you enjoyed the last episode. Today is going to be greater and better. So call your friends, neighbor, brother, sister and tell them it's Amazing Amazon o'clock and it's about to get started. Welcome on board. I am Tosin Adeyemi. Climate crisis is a very delicate issue that we need to talk about. I know that a lot of people would say climate change. What business do I have with this and how is this affecting? Of course, it is affecting us in one way or the other. And I know that a lot of people do not talk about it. When you look right behind me here, you see that this is not good enough for us in the society. And how is this affecting us? It's affecting us mentally, it's affecting our health as well. So we need to be concerned about our environment. So today I'll be speaking with a climate advocate to give us insights, need to educate us on why we need to keep talking about our environment and how it's actually shaping our life, our daily activities and affecting us as a nation. So today there is a lot to learn. So do not say that climate change or whatever is not affecting you. It is, and you will learn more on the interview segment. So join me as we get educated. All right, welcome to the interview segment. Yes, today is going to be different as usual. You know, I bring to you different episodes with amazing people, amazing personalities. So today we want to talk about a particular sector that people hardly talk about, which is the climate change. I have with me Abimbola Abikoye. She is a climate change advocate and she runs a network that focuses on redefining climate education and environmental advocacy for coastal communities, women and youth. So nice to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be here with you. And I love your green.
I'm representing.
So, yeah. Yeah, good Nigerian.
Yes, so.
Yeah. All right, looking at climate, because this is one sector that it's rare, as in you hardly find women as in going towards this direction. We know women in business, women in tech now, coming up now. Then women in all sectors, thriving in all sectors. But this particular line of climate change, that is where you focused on. But before I ask you why you went into it, tell us more about yourself, what people should know about you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Abikoye Abimbola. I founded Revamp Brave Network to redefine climate education for young people, coastal communities and women. And these three categories of people are very significant for my work because in terms of climate change, they are the most susceptible to climate crisis. They're more vulnerable to climate crisis. So, and which during the course of our conversation, you get to hear more insights on why these three groups are significant to my work. And I'm a social impact analyst by virtue of passion because I realized there are some questions that I needed answers to and I couldn't find those answers. So I decided to dive into it, and which brought me into solving the social dimension to climate change, which is heavily backed on looking at how people think, how people behave, how our system helps to improve the well-being of people to attain environmental and climate justice. And for Revamp Brave Network, we are focused on climate education, like I said earlier, and you've rightly mentioned, and also environmental advocacy. And because we know that every young person belongs to a specific community, they are the ones that can define or expressly explain what their challenges are in their various communities. And so the education is more on young people because, like you said, you have tech, you have business, and climate change is all round. And during the course of our conversation, you also understand how climate change is all round. And for the environmental advocacy part, we cannot use the same approach we use for young people who are educated, for community people who are not educated, and that's where the environmental advocacy come in. So we use these different methods using traditional approaches to educate them using their languages so they can, it's relatable to them, so they understand it from how it affects them, because we've come to realize that communities have the solutions, but they do not know that they have the solutions because they are not well educated.
You know, so this sounds so interesting, and I am really, really interested in it. But before we move further, because I know that you have a lot to share with us today on the show, but let's start with you first before we go deeply into that line. Let's start with you. Like, how did you tell us how you started?
Right.
Before telling us how you started, tell us about your growing up. Who are the major influence on you? At what point did you discover that, oh, this is where I'm heading to? So let us have the story from the scratch.
Right. Okay, mine is quite unique, because I would say that growing up, I always wanted to do something. I always wanted to do arts, because I saw that, or I had this ability to think differently. I actually thought it was weird at first, because, you know, you do not understand all those things while you're young. But then I have a lot of people around me. I had my siblings, I had other friends, because the way our mother brought us up was quite different. So we tend to lean on each other as siblings. So I had because I am the last one of my family. So then I have people who are ahead of me who would make mistakes that I would learn from. So I learned from their mistakes, and they are very innovative. So I would say that from their own experiences.
You have people ahead of you that you can learn from their mistakes.
Of course.
What should firstborn do now?
They set the pace.
Okay.
So I was able to look keenly to their own steps and follow their own steps. But aside what they had to do, mine was different, because I was art. Others were commercials and science. So, but then I never thought of environment, actually, because I did my first degree. This is the first time I'm sharing this, actually.
Yeah.
So my first degree was in theater arts. Actually, I did performing arts in school, where I majored in creative writing and directing. Okay. So there I learned how dramas evolved. But then on going to serve, because I served in the north, I realized that there are lots of things that are happening around me that I wasn't, that I didn't know about. For instance, almanjiris. You have a lot of things going in the north. So I developed a project. So we had this, NYC had this this scheme which they called this is side, where they tend to give acquisition. So while others were learning other kind of skills to build businesses, I thought of project management. So it was a friend that actually told me about it. So I was like, okay, let me try to see if I can do something about it. I'd already seen some of all these issues. I saw these almanjiri students, children, working in mass from one point to another, endlessly with plates. And the thing is, they're very talented. They sing a lot, they dance in their own language in the Hausa, because they are divided into three. You have Gwari, you have Nupe. So I watched them for about a week. So very early in the morning, as early as 6:30, I go to Tunga roundabout. So you see them coming out from a particular night market area. Then they walk from Tunga to Boso. So I follow them. So I decided that, okay, I don't know of the political or social-religious issues surrounding it. I was just learning, but I had the idea of impacting what I've learned in school as an art student. So we were able to train about 500 students from 3 different schools. Government Boys College, Mina, then Boso Secondary School, then another one.
You trained them in what aspect?
So in arts, how to write plays, how to the art of stage management and acting and all. So that was what I saw that they needed, because they were very talented. So we were able to infuse some of these, like 2 of them from these children into it, because we noticed that some of them wanted to go to school, but they didn't have the opportunity to. So we were successful in the project. I still keep in touch with some of them, about 10 of the boys, which I was able to keep in touch with.
This is like how many years back now?
Since 2016. So I served 2015, 2016. Then one day we had this power outbreak. The whole of Mina, I don't know if it's Niger, didn't have power supply. There was an issue with the dam, and there was flooding. So the first time I experienced it was when the rain fell, and I saw that somebody had died due to the flooding. So it made me reflect. I was like, okay, we are running on education, But if there is no environment, what then is education?
Exactly.
What then is infrastructure? Nothing works because our dreams and aspirations are built around our environment.
Sure.
So I started reading on it. So fortunately for me, I went ahead to do my master's. So I chose to do it in international law and diplomacy. Then at that time, I had a job in the bank. I was working with one of the financial institutions, the headquarters in Marina. Then I was still not, I was in and out of it. But then one day I was on 3rd Mainland Bridge, and I saw somewhere close to CMS, and I saw that people could actually go from there through boats to another community. So I was like, I love nature, maybe I could write something
about nature.
So I went there, and there's in Takwa Bay, that's the name of the community. It's divided into 6. You have the lighthouse and you have all of that. But to cut the long story short, I saw a dead tortoise, not 1, 5 of them. We didn't know what was happening. When I got there, I just saw, I was scared. I was like, this tortoise is so big. I didn't even understand the ecosystem functioning that they have to the environment. And I was like, what's happening? So I was calling a lot of people. And before I knew, the community just took them away. And somebody came to approach me, you shouldn't have done that. I was like, well, I think they needed help. I said, no, they are choking on past. These people will kill them and eat them. Do you know what it means? And I Googled, and that was how my journey started. So that was not the first community, but one of the major community that started my independent research. So I started reading on it, and I realized, okay, why are policies not working? What's the problem? A lot of organizations, and I volunteered for an organization called ICCDI. That was where I started my work as an environmental advocate. That was in 2019. So I rose from the volunteer to be their director of programs, and I started asking lots of questions. Then I started as an independent research, and I realized that people actually drive change. It's not about the innovations that we bring. If you don't have people to buy into the change that you're bringing to them, how does it work? It won't work at all. And that's how my journey started as a social impact analyst, because I realized that we're making so much effort, but why is it not working?
It's not working. You started as a volunteer.
Yes.
You're volunteering. So tell us now, how did you build your own network? How did you come about your own network?
Okay, so I would say that I'm not somebody who sits in a place, because I believe that once you sit in a place, you miss the opportunities that come with going out. And so I go for events, but aside that, volunteering helped me a lot as well, because I started out as a volunteer. I didn't have an environmental sciences background. I'm not a geographer. I'm not in any of the science courses that has to do with the environment.
Of course, you studied theater art.
Yes, so. I did theater arts, yeah. So volunteering was one of my strongest capacity building opportunities that I got. So it helped me with my network because I went out, but then in doing the independent research that I did and in writing about them online, I was able to attract some other people. I would say one of the first consultation jobs that I got was through my writings online and through referral. Somebody saw something, I was like, oh, this girl followed me, and she referred me to an organization. So I did the research for them, and in fact, the publication just came out this morning. I just saw the publication this morning. So, and some other jobs that I've gotten. So I write online, I go for events that has to do with what I do. So for every event that I go for or any outing that I go for, I ensure that it is something where I can meet the people that I look up to have conversations with them. And that has helped me build my network. And also, friends of friends. Because when you do your work diligently, people will refer you, people will talk about it. And maybe someone somewhere is talking about me in a room. Maybe I'm about to win $1 million.
Yeah.
So yes, it has helped me build my network capacity. And I'm very grateful for the volunteering service that I rendered, because we have people volunteer for different things. I just wanted to serve. I just wanted to learn. I knew there was a loophole, and well, maybe now, but then it was a little tough because no organization will want to take in somebody who is inexperienced. And so I decided that, okay, maybe I could do this and try all the ideas that I have with this organization. And lucky for me, the person who leads the organization is a very open person. He supports young people. And I'll be like, Oga, I have this idea. I'll be like, okay, Jati, let's push it. And he was always ready to listen. And I would say I was lucky to meet people like that. And he didn't hesitate to talk about me where he knows that, okay, I could get opportunities from. So I would say that, yes, volunteering, doing my independent research, going out to meet people, researching about people in my sector, and also looking for their events.
And attending.
Yes, attending their events, reading up on them, knowing the type of project that they were currently doing. Know how to fix myself in those projects. Although sometimes, when you go to them and they just feel they can't help you, or they don't buy into what you're doing, because not everybody will buy into what you're doing anyway.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, so but the few that did, I'm grateful because I learned more and I was able to build my confidence around having to be in the sector. So I'm sure that if some other persons see this, they'll be like, oh, so you're not students. Because I get that a lot from other people, and I'm like...
I'm about to ask that, what's happening to the theater arts dream?
Okay, so...
Has it died completely?
No, it hasn't. So the thing is, I was able to translate it into writing campaigns for people. What I was able to do with being a theater student is using the things that I've learned to write them into plays that are relatable to communities.
I know that a lot of people that starts something like a project or a different, like this network or this field that you are in now.
Yeah.
Some people will start like as a volunteer, volunteering, going for events, studying people and all of that. But as soon as they get their first project, like first contract, or how I put it, they will feel like, oh no, people are now getting to know me better. I don't think I can volunteer again. So do you still volunteer?
Of course, I do. I volunteer for, so there's this organization called, it's a faith-based movement though, and I would say that volunteering is inexhaustible because you learn every day.
Regardless of where you are.
I don't know about anybody, but it's a lifelong commitment that I've decided that I'm going to do when I started volunteering. But although I cannot volunteer probably as a project manager anymore, but I can do well to create programs that I feel this could lead your organization into the next phase of what you hope to do.
All right, we'll talk better now on the climate sector now. But very quickly, we have to go on a short break. So viewers, stay with us. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. All right, so welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. Okay, now let's go into the real conversation of today, which is climate change. People don't really talk about this. Do you think it's something we should talk about?
Of course, this is something everybody should talk about.
People don't even talk about climate.
That's because
one is business, one is I want to talk
everybody
about that.
Is there.
But why?
That's because many people don't understand how it affects them. Because they feel, okay, what's happening currently is just natural, but then
it's the work of God.
Maybe. So there are a lot of cultural, religious, political, social, and economic things around it. But then it affects everybody because climate change is education, climate change is infrastructure, climate change is economic, climate change is food, climate change is business, climate change is tech, is finance, is everything. And I would say that it is supposed to be a topic that everybody talks about because it affects everybody directly and indirectly. But how it affects them, not everybody know about it. So I would say that we've been experiencing a lot of different weather conditions. If you notice, you see that sometimes the sun is very hot, right? And some people, sometimes me, I can barely breathe if I'm on because there's so much heat when it comes to sun, when the sun is very hot. And these are some of the direct and indirect aspects of having extreme weather events. If you realize too, sometimes you see that there is rain, right? And if you ask some certain farmers, they will tell you, rain is not supposed to fall at this time, but it's falling, right? What would they do? They've lost a lot of things. Seedlings, land, they're not prepared, right? And if you see Lagos, once it falls in Lagos, everybody's always like Lekki people, right?
Yes.
All places flood. Even on the mainland,
very affected.
They are very affected, and that's because they are very close to the coast. Lagos is a coastal community. In fact, Nigeria is a coastal nation, so we are close to the ocean. And Lagos is even very close, right? And so there are a lot of things, and people need to talk about these things because it affects them personally. Like I illustrated before, when you have extreme heat, people tend to itch. Some people who have reactions tend to itch. Others can barely breathe. Some people get tired, you easily fall sick because the sun is too much. And you know Lagos State, a place that will take you 30 to 15 minutes in Lagos is not possible. You have to bother like, if you are safe, 2 hours. Oh, sure. Right, because bad road, traffic, and a whole lot of things. So these are some of the direct effects it has. But then in the atmosphere, we don't see these things, but it's happened. So if many of our activities, such as, I'll use Lagos as an example. Lagos is one of the most populated states in Nigeria. Yes. Maybe even in Africa. But let us restrict it to Nigeria. And there's so much congestion, right? We have bad drainages. Because when you see rainfalls, rather than it pass the drainage, you see that they are clogged with plastic frame from different places. Yes, then it will all be stocked up at one place. So there's no place for the water to flow during rainy season. So a particular place is flooded. Plus, the intensity of the rain is even much because we have so much gases from the vehicles that we drive. You see that one family is having 5 cars. There's no space on the road because they are bad roads and a lot of things. So these are some of the direct effects. And we are humans. Population demands that you have more demands. You buy more goods. You pay for more services, right? And this high in population demand increases the type of waste or the kind of waste or the amount of waste, that we generate. Lagos State generates over 13 tons of waste every day. And about 7,000 is taken by LOMA, that's Lagos State Waste Management Agency. So 13,000 tons every day, minus 7,000. There's no margin, right? And so many of them are dumped on the road because Loma doesn't have so much capacity to take out the type of waste that the population in Lagos takes away. These are some of the direct effects. The indirect effects are when the rain falls, some people's homes are flooded with waste. Majorly people who stay in communities, these are the people that don't even generate so much waste, but they're the ones that are affected most because this waste, they find their way into these communities. And you know we have slums in Lagos because we are too populated. So much. People are moving, people are being affected by lots of things. People are migrating into the states on a daily basis. Yes, on a daily basis. Because everyone feels like if you don't come to Lagos you don't have, exactly. So these are some of the direct effects. Migration, large-scale migration of people coming from different places to come and find, or running from places that have insurgencies that are war-torn from the north, and some people who leave their communities from the other places that face from the south, facing gas flaring and all of that, and they want to look for a better environment to strive. They come to Lagos, and Lagos is already populated, and so we don't have the capacity to Do you understand? So these communities are having these issues. These are some of the direct effects. And once rain falls, and you know what rain, wetness, and dirt does? It brings a lot of mosquitoes. It brings a lot of malaria. So people fall sick, and these are health-related hazards that these things cause. Let's talk about extreme heat. Somebody who has asthma, and there's a lot of heat. Do you get? And you know, with the increasing vehicles we have on the road, with industries doing their productions, manufacturing their goods, and they are not considering environmental policies to help curb some of the things that they do, it takes up gases into the atmosphere. And we know that human activities drive climate change. It changes the natural balance of the atmosphere. So all of this clog in the atmosphere, you see a lot of cloud. And when the cloud can't hold a lot of gases, what happens? It falls back. And then the sea level rises. And these Nigerians will say, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't work. But then we have food, but we don't have food. Why should we be having food and we don't have food? That's because we lose lands. Extreme heat breaks the soil, right? There's desertification, there's drought in the north. The north is closer to the Lake Chad, and Lake Chad is bordered around 5 countries: Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, and the other countries. We share these resources, and the thing is shrinking because of extreme heat. I know if there's extreme heat, the floor will be saturated.
Yeah.
There would not no water to help. I know most of them are farmers, so farmers are out of jobs. Farmers can't feed, and we keep losing things, right? So let's take another instance. A farmer who has planted, okay, let's say for instance from March to April is raining season, for instance, and the next raining season comes, let's say in September, right? The other in between is dry season. So let me plant in January, so that by the time the rain comes, it helps me through it all. Then I harvest, then I plant another one.
But then it doesn't.
Do you get? It doesn't work like that, because Nigeria is dependent on the rain for farming activities.
Yes.
So now the climate is changing. The rain are not falling the way they should, or they're inconsistent. Sometimes, to 2020, the rain started falling, I think in February or March.
Yeah.
Right, which has distorted a lot of things. These farmers are not even equipped, right, to understand that, okay, there's a change in the climate. Okay, what should we do? When should we plant? And so they are losing seedlings. They are losing land, because if rain is too heavy for the land can't hold the water, right? It washes off the crops. That's expenses, right? Small scale farmers that have been given probably fundings to do this, and they don't have seedlings. They don't even have access to it. So we are running short of a whole lot of things. These are the direct effects. And for us who are not farmers, we won't get food to eat. That's when you go to the market and you see tomatoes is high.
Expensive. One other thing I would say that you have also mentioned is waste management.
Yes.
I guess this is a sector that we really need to focus on how to manage waste.
Right.
Because the way we consume so many things, Lagos especially, just like I said, that everything is in can, is in this, but we don't have the capacity to like get all of these things. And I believe most of these things, they get recycled.
Yes.
They recycle them, then throw them back to the community, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the solution. Now you have made analysis on why we should talk about it, and now, just like you have pointed out, it's affecting our health.
Yes.
It's affecting our environment.
Right.
It's affecting even the food we eat.
Right.
It's affecting business owners, farmers who got loans, you know. Yes, it's affecting so many people directly and indirectly.
Right.
So now, how do we address this? How do we change it? What do you think can be done? And like in Lagos State, what measure do you think that they put in place to like address this situation?
Okay, so Lagos State is doing a lot of good job, right? We have a lot of individuals, organizations, and social entrepreneurs that have bettered a lot of innovation to help curb it. But you know, you can't control population, so we still have a lot of work to do in terms of education and awareness, because I believe that that is the first step, right? So, but for Lagos State, we have LOMA. They are doing wonderfully well. They are partnering with social entrepreneurs to ensure that they recycle. Although I don't believe that recycling is our is the solution, because it encourages more production of materials, right? Because when you take a bottle out of the street, when you take a plastic, well, the cap has an additional value. The paper around the branding has an additional value. The bottle itself has an additional value, right? I'm not into waste recycling, but I have a lot of people that I've partnered with that I learned the process from. They have 3 different values which they can use to generate income for people. But then it encourages more production of waste. But in terms of upcycling, which not many people do, or many recycling companies are beginning to purge into, is using these materials to create another product which value might likely be more than the initial value it was created for.
Okay.
So it's a way of phasing out waste. So we have a lot of organizations that not-for-profit and social enterprises, for-profit social enterprises, that are doing wonderfully well in terms of recycling and upcycling. Although for upcycling we don't have too many, but we have recycling. But it helps, at least it's an immediate solution for now.
Okay.
But it's not a long-lasting solution, right? And so they are helping. And so Loma, and you know, because we have bad roads, and Loma has a challenge too. they help with waste. They go to different streets. They go streets by streets to pick up waste. And Loma has been partnering with a lot of organizations. We now have bins where you put your bottles.
Yes.
They come to pick them, then you get reward. In fact, there's even an app that somebody developed. So if you have a lot of, plastics, you can just put, open your app, select the organization. They come to pick your bottles. Yes, in your house.
Really?
Not everybody knows about it. I knew about this last year. Okay, I think that was when the app was launched, early last year. So these are some of the innovations and we cannot do it alone. Partnership is very crucial.
Yeah.
And this is what Loma has been doing. And but there's so much work needs to be done. A lot of communities who have bad roads, Loma can go to communities. They even can't, because if Loma buys a truck for, let's say, 15 million, and they want to go to a community like Kadara to pick waste, which are very waste, they're like capitals of waste, right? How do Loma go there? These communities are landfill. The truck will sink.
Yes.
So they
and some of them throw this waste into the sea, like the ocean.
Yes.
Like, I know that a lot of things causes climate change, because sometimes it will be raining when it's not supposed to be raining.
Of course.
We know the time when it's supposed to be raining. We know rainy season, dry season, and all of that. Then we found out that, like somewhere around, was it last year or 2 years ago, that December period, it rained so heavily. Yeah. And that was not the normal
it's abnormal
day, as in normal times for rain to start falling. But what causes all of these climate changes? Like, what causes it?
Okay, so I'll take, for instance, the direct one. So we have a lot of cars on our streets, right? And they power on fuel. Yeah. Right? That's fossil fuel. And this fuel, when they drive their cars, it comes fumes. Some of them are not so bad. Some of them are bad. And so these fumes, where do they go to? They're like air. They go up. Yeah. Right? And so we are like a lot. It's not just Nigeria alone. It's global. So from Niger Delta, you have them spill. If you go to the Niger Delta, you see that they spill oil there in the process of extracting oil from the floor. And because they have waste from this extraction, they flare it. So you see some communities are perpetually lit up with fire because they are burning this fuel, because they are waste. So they flare these gases. And these fumes goes where? Up. And so it comes with carbon, and carbon is high in the atmosphere. So there are gases that, yes, they have their own functioning, but too much of it is a problem. So they go up, and there's nowhere for them to go to. Because usually there's what we call the greenhouse effect, where the sun's ray brings different gases. Okay. We have oxygen we get from the trees around us. The trees take carbon when we breathe it out. Then photosynthesis from the sunlight for plants, A lot of beautiful things comes around. But then with this and the one we emit, they store up in the atmosphere with nowhere to escape. Because they can't go out, because there's nowhere for them to go. There's too much of it. So it turns into cloud in the atmosphere and it falls back as rainfall.
Wow.
Yeah.
How come you know all of this?
Well, I had to go read the science of climate change to be able to, although I'm still learning, but then that's how I can explain it to people so that they understand how it relates to them as an individual. Even we as individuals, there are some activities that we do. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. The water that you use to brush your teeth, it comes from somewhere. If you don't have a borehole, you might likely not have water. Yeah, sure. Right? And these boreholes are dredged on the floor to get where the water is from. Right? And some of these things are not done properly. That's why you see some communities don't even have water. And wasting water means the water that's supposed to be enough for a lot of people, you're wasting it away. You don't know what that does as well. Yeah. So there are a lot of it. So these are how these things changes the climate. And we are overpopulated in Nigeria. We flare gas. Our economy is oil dependent, right? And a whole lot of other things. Some agriculture too causes emission of gases, methane in particular. Those who rear animals, and a whole lot of other agricultural activities that emit gases in the atmosphere. So they are trapped above us, and there's nowhere for them to go. So they come back to us, and some of all these scientific things that are attached to it. So it causes it a whole lot.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to, as we begin to wrap up, because we're running out of time now, how do we sensitize people, like make them aware? What do you think can be done to make them know that, oh, this thing is affecting us? Because if people do not understand how something affects them, they probably won't do anything about it. But just like you've analyzed, and I know that viewer also now have the whole idea of how the climate change is affecting us, affecting our health, affecting our businesses, affecting so many sectors, so many aspects of our lives. So what do you think, what role do you think the people generally can do to like address this climate crisis? And also, it's a 2-in-1 question because of our time. And also, how do we sensitize people, make them know that, yes, let's talk about this, let's make people aware that they are affected, how we can curb it also.
There are lots of things that we can do to help sensitize people. But then there are a lot of other background things that we need to do, because one, our policies are not even in our favor to start with. Although recently the Climate Change Act was passed, which is a beautiful milestone that can help us in our mission into achieving the NDCs. NDCs are like national determined contributions that Nigeria has said, okay, this is what I want to do for the next couple of years to help reduce the impact of climate change.
Yeah.
So yes, in terms of education, we know that you cannot talk to a person and somebody who is educated the way you talk to somebody who is uneducated.
Sure.
There's supposed to be different methods. Putting into consideration that there are cultural barriers that could be much of a challenge, because these are some of the challenges I awkwardly face and I'm still facing, but I've found a way to maneuver it, right? Putting in place that there's some cultural barriers. People might not likely want to listen to you, but then they know that there's some changes in the atmosphere. Leverage on the little information that they have to ensure that they're empowered through their mind. And like I said earlier, people drive change.
Yeah.
If people don't buy into your change, there's no how you would scale.
Exactly.
Right? So you need to just understand your community of people, the community of people that you're talking to be able to like leverage talking to them. There are lots of ways that people can use in talking to people, right? And one of the ways that, like I said, empowering young people and environmental advocacy for coastal communities. And one of the efforts that I'm trying to make is currently I'm training 200 people from around the world, from the 6 continents, on climate change education. And in training these people, they'll go back to their communities. Some of them already started creating innovative ideas because I made it very intensive for them. You cannot just come and learn and just stay there, right? So these are, and I've equally trained 20 people from Africa as well. And these people are doing very well, beautifully well in their immediate communities. So aside this, communities buy into people's change if you're able to listen to them. We don't listen enough, and that's why some of the things that we do don't have effects. Like I told you before, one question was on my mind: why are things not changing? And people are putting so much effort. People don't listen to each other. It's about the solutions that I want to bring rather than the people you are creating for. So education is like the birthplace for change.
So the governments will be...
The government has, yes, the government has a very huge role to play. In fact, in terms of ensuring that the policies that are made are well informed and well implemented.
Exactly.
Right, because we have beautiful policies, but these policies, most of them can't work now because we don't have some certain things in place. And what are the things we don't have in place? Basic amenities, good road, power supply, food, jobs, earning. We don't have it. So some of the policies cannot work right now, right? But then there are policies that can work during, like, in our present situation, and people can drive it. So some of all these policies, how well are they implementing them? Because you cannot solve the problems for people that are facing the challenge. You can't know more than the people that is facing the challenges that they are facing. It has to be inclusive. And that's where the government comes in. And also enforcement. We know our laws. We know our justice system. For you to be able to, I cannot start talking about it because you're a Nigerian, I'm a Nigerian.
Yes, we understand.
So more efforts on enforcement so that when these laws are being passed, and some of them are done in policies to ensure that they work towards the good of people, anybody that violates this should have to pay a price. So enforcement and accountability is key from the part of the government. Because we have companies that come into Nigeria, they want to come and take resources, they want to build businesses. How well are they ensuring that they don't degrade the environment? Because if you look at it, the companies and industries that are degrading the environment, how well are they ensuring that communities have, benefit from it? Because they are extracting resources from a community.
Yeah, exactly.
How can they benefit from it? We have less cases. We don't have cases of communities benefiting from industrial productions, but then they degrade these people's environment. Sometimes they even get chased off their environment. So accountability, enforcement, and proper policy implementation and formulation is key from the part of the government. And for policymakers too, they have their role to play in creating informed policy, because the government cannot create policies. The policy makers that create policies for the government. So these are, and we as citizens, we have our own parts to play. We have to be conscious, keep our waste properly, ensure that our carbon footprint. So carbon footprints are the amount of carbon your activities emits.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of the car you take, the way you drive, the water you waste, and all these things, how you do your stuff. So in reducing all those things, the amount of plastics that you use, how you dispose of them, how you keep your waste, this helps a whole lot.
Yes, it
so
helps.
everybody has their parts to play.
Everyone has a role to play in this regard.
Everybody has a role to play.
And I'll also say that it's about doing the right thing, doing it right.
Yes, and at the right time.
Right, and at the right time. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
In fact, you have first educated me. I'm now enlightened. Now I know better.
Yeah.
So I believe that our viewers also know better now.
Yeah.
We now know the reason why we need to start talking about it.
Climate change.
Because it's affecting us one way or the other, directly and indirectly. We need to start doing things right, dispose your waste properly, and make sure that you do the needful in the aspect of you going about. Just be prepared for any climate change because right now you cannot just say that, okay, I want to predict that, oh, it's going to rain today, it's going to rain. People who read the weather forecast, that's going to rain today, it's going to rain tomorrow, please. That doesn't really work now.
Everybody has their part to play.
Yes, so everyone has their part to play. So this is where we draw the curtain of the interview segment. We take the quotes for today, then we wrap up the show. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Yes, I believe you enjoyed every bit of our conversation, and I'm so sure now that at this point you will agree with me that it's important that we all talk about climate change and how it affects us and what we can do about it. Just like our guest said, that you and I have a role to play in this regard, so we can actually have a perfect environment. Dispose your waste properly, and make sure that your environment is clean, as these affect our daily activities and everything we do. So thank you so much for being a part of this episode. So till I come your way again next weekend, I remain your host, Tosin Adeyemi. Bye for now.